Nobody cares about our encounters,
It's true.
close or otherwise.
That's true. That's true. Hey, friends. Someone asked me, why do you always talk over the first part of the show? And I'm like, well, it's the warm up. This is like the, cold open, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Little
very
vocal
cold
warm
open.
up.
That's right. Yeah. We're just waiting for everyone to get settled. We've got people coming in from YouTube and Twitch and Twitter and Facebook.
Right. Far-flung corners of the internet.
Yeah, we want people to be able to kind of find their seats, get comfy.
Sure. Get
Maybe
their
say,
snacks.
get a snack, say hello.
Drink of water.
Right.
Sure.
It's important to hydrate, folks.
It
Yes.
is.
Hail
It
hydration.
is. You know when you need hydration? When you're doing some multi-dimensional, interdimensional travel.
Yes.
Should dry you out.
Mm-hmm.
Also,
Apparently, it makes
moisturizer.
you vomit.
Yeah, that's what I hear.
That's very dehydrating.
It really is. Vomiting is very, very dehydrating. Claude is really more of a low dration.
Mm-hmm. Well, hydration is greater than low dration
That is true.
by its
That's true.
definition.
That is true.
Nothing but
say-
the most scientific facts here at Eminem Monday.
That's right. We make science sciencey. I was gonna say, my hydration level right now, I think is probably, I would say optimum. I feel hydrated. How about you two?
Oh, good.
Yeah.
I feel pretty hydrated.
Yeah. Well,
Doing reasonably well. Got some water just to be just in case.
good. I think today is going to be one of those interesting journeys into the multiverse because it's Multiverse May.
Mm-hmm. Right.
David says, I came in on vomiting is very dehydrating. Yeah, it's just, David, it's all that interdimensional travel. You've got to disassemble all the molecules and rush them at beyond the speed of light into the next sort of dimension, and then you got to reassemble it all. And, if you happen to have anything, like maybe you ate a big meal before, maybe you had a big sort of, I don't know, feast, and then you're traveling to the next world and you're filled with food, and,
Could be rough.
it could be rough, could be a bumpy ride.
Bad plan.
But that's, really not the focus of today's show, the vomiting part, I mean. But the multi-dimensional beings and your encounters, that is it. And I figure, since we started a little early, it's 2:01. We've got everybody seated. Everyone looks like they're comfortable in all the cams that we've got installed in their homes. You're all looking very, very nice today, by the way. Good job on keeping up on them chores. And, without further ado, how about I do this? Ta-da! Hey.
Hey, everybody.
Steve and
Hello, everyone.
Alex, Crystal's on an away mission today. And will join us again next week. But for now, it's us. And we're talking, it is Multiverse May, and it means lots of different things. But today's show is very specifically about multidimensional beings in your encounters. And it's whether you're creating one or whether you are including one or whether you suspect that somebody on the cast of MuMaMo is one. MuMaMo.
Right.
And I do. So just keep your eye on these two. Although Crystal isn't here, that food for thought. But yeah.
I know I'm from this dimension. Steve's the one I'm worried about.
Yeah, right. How does one stay so young over so many a century?
That's more time travel than dimension travel.
Oh. Hey,
Unless-
look at everybody here. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Alex.
So unless Steve has been just murdering his variants across the multiverse and absorbing their youth.
I see. He's very calm and very cool, very collected person. So I can see that, that's always the calm one. But look, we've got Aura's here. We've got Sean's here. We've got John Lighthouser's here. We've got a punk pinata is here. That's nice. Dimension hopping gives my tumblies the rumblies. Me as well, my friend. Claude is here, of course. David Bodie. Wow, we got a full house.
Yeah.
Tabletop Test Drive is here.
Calvin's
Love
here too.
it. Is Calvin here?
Yeah, he's waiting 30 minutes after eating before hopping into the multiverse.
Nice, I see. Very
Always
smart.
a good safety tip.
Very smart. Well, shoot. It is so nice to see everybody, and what a great show you've picked. Steve, Alex, take us on a journey to another dimension.
Well, there's so many, you know,
True.
infinite dimensions for us to work with in that regard. You know, that's one of the great things about the multiverse as a comic book structure is it literally includes everything. So anything you could possibly imagine, you can include in your superhero game as long as it comes from somewhere out there, basically.
There's a universe where your player characters are playing you in a game of Mutants and Masterminds.
Right?
Right. That's right. Bunch of heroes going, wow. Look, normies and naturals or something.
Normies and average minds.
Right.
Normies and nearly average minds. Aura says time travel and multiverse stuff is my jam.
Yeah. It's
I
fun.
hear that. Yeah. It's our jam as well because we definitely enjoy a good time travel, a good multiverse sojourn. Let's see. Punk Pinata. I keep wanting to call you Pumpkin Pinata, but that's not it. Punk Pinata is doing taxes. So I see.
Oof. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry. We are not visiting that dimension today.
It's -2 circumstance penalty for being late.
Right. And John, I feel that one to the core of my being. I do. Love it. All right. Well, so yeah, let's dig in. Given the nature of there's just so many ways that you can do this, so many places that you can go.
Yeah.
What tethers you to, so to speak, reality? Like, what keeps you from going just, like a kid in a candy store?
Mm-hmm. Well, it depends a lot on the kind of game you're running. If you are focused on more of a sort of traditional superhero game, then chances are other dimensions are going to come into play occasionally. Like every once in a while, you're going to get a villain who shows up from another universe, or you're going to send the heroes off to another universe on an adventure. And after that, they're going to come home. But generally speaking, the heroes are going to be homebodies. They're going to stick around this universe for the most part, and mostly deal with things from this universe with just little multiversal stuff for spice. Every once in a while, a little change of pace,
Little rip in the time space. Yeah.
Right. Occasional rips in the time space continuum that just need to be patched up. Just painted over,
Little spackle,
buffed out, but just be fine.
It's a great way to experiment with tone that might be different than the tone of your regular campaign without committing to a new idea, which is fun.
Right.
Ooh, nice. I like that.
Yeah, multiversal stuff is great on basically avoiding consequences. If you want to, send the heroes to a world where they get to see what happens when, a villain's plan destroys the world, well, send them to a parallel universe where that happened. They can deal with all of that and then come home, and you don't have to worry about the world being destroyed.
I like that. I also have seen this before where the multidimensional thing is used to kind of be fun and add some levity, sort of like the cartoon place or the,
Or into the TV shows.
Right.
Which we did as a palate cleanser on my show after I murdered Steve on my show.
Well, that is nice. It's a nice way to say
Right.
I'm sorry.
A little, just lighten the tone a little bit.
Yeah, we needed a break. Sometimes my players need a break from me.
From murder and mayhem.
But, the kind of stuff we're talking about today is much more about the multiversal characters who come to the heroes universe to encounter them rather than the other way around.
Right. Yeah. So what kind of considerations do you make when building that particular being? I think about all the probabilities and the almost, like they could be untouchable if you didn't do it right?
Yeah, potentially. I mean, it depends on what kind of character you're building. A character being from another universe could just be a minor part of their background. It's just a excuse for why this character is what they are. But other times it can be really integral into what type of character they are, either because of what they're related to, like they're a parallel version of one of the heroes, for example, or because of their abilities are really tied in to the nature of different realities or dimensions, or the like. And so they're like a character who can fold space and time, or generate dimensional portals or things like that.
Yeah, and
Very
that's a good. I think
ahead,
the
please.
important thing to consider is what you want them to be in your story for. So if this
Mhm.
is like a MacGuffin, so it's a character who can travel the multiverse, and heroes and villains both have intentions for that power, or if it's just somebody who's showing up to give a dire warning to the heroes, don't do this, something bad's going to happen.
Right.
Right. What are the fundamental powers that make up the interdimensional time traveler? The time, or not time traveler, the interdimensional traveler. Like, what is that? What in the language of mutants and masterminds? What? How do you build that?
So there's a movement effect, basically called dimensional movement, that is the ability to move between dimensions. And it's one of those effects in Mutants and Masterminds that's highly situational, and therefore it tends to be pretty cheap, precisely because of that, because it's really heavily dependent on what the game master allows and what the options for dimensional travel are in the setting. Um, so it tends to be much more of a story based effect, and it's effectively a benefit in a lot of ways. In terms of I can move between Asgard and Earth, or the spirit realm and Earth, or what have you. And whether or not it's really useful, or at least all that useful in practical terms, tends to be more a matter of whether or not your character can teleport.
Gotcha. So
Or you
like,
can come back.
Right.
Maybe you can only go one way.
oh, I like the idea. Gene's talking about a gender swapped counterpart.
Yep.
Yeah, I like that.
Common
That's clever.
parallel Earth.
Yeah. Yeah, so was there a discussion, or I may have missed it in subsequent Marvel updates, but like Nightcrawler, right?
Yep.
Is Nightcrawler really just teleporting through or moving through another dimension and then finding another way in, or is that kind of what's happening there?
That's a common teleportation trick, is
Yeah.
you teleport through some sort of interstitial dimension, and you move there and reappear somewhere in Earth's dimension.
I like that.
It's hell for Nightcrawler, right?
Effectively, it's like a hellish sort of dimension.
Sulfury, right? I mean,
Yeah,
yeah,
which
I
is
remember.
why you get the sort of sulfur and brimstone effect when he teleports.
I like it. I like it. All right. So, any other considerations when you're like constructing either a sort of a villain or some kind of a character that creates some struggle or strife for the team? Because it doesn't necessarily have to even be a villain, right? It could be
No.
interdimensional person or thing or being that is lost, or
Yep.
what
be.
have you, and there needs to be some kind of rescue or sort of getting them along their way. I could imagine there being some, there's a lot of talk in the chat about things like tachyons and all of the, like we have a very smart crew, and I don't know what any of that necessarily means, but I have to imagine if you're introducing someone from another dimension into yours, there could be some real problems with that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it depends on how sciencey you want to get about it, honestly. Most of the time, comics just tend to skip over that part,
Right.
and it's really not a big consideration. But you can play around with the notion of an alternate world that has a different atmospheric composition, for example.
Like
Where
helium by chance.
yeah, for
That's
example,
wild.
It's funny.
Similarly, you could have a parallel Earth that has a higher oxygen content in its atmosphere, which is going to tend to make oxygen breathers kind of drunk.
Mm-hmm.
Right,
Gravity's weird, or
Right, different gravity.
Or it could be as simple as everybody's got a goatee and they're evil in this universe.
Right.
I like it. So that's what I love too, is that you can get as much of the fun out of something with not necessarily agonizing over all the details. Or if you're like Aura, you can, stay up late all night and read Wikipedia, which I have been known to do myself. Yeah. I think someone in the chat might be addicted to research, as it sounds. Let's see.
That is the danger of being a GM.
Right. Yeah. There's a whole
disappearing down a rabbit hole of research.
Yeah, when it comes to this kind of stuff, multiplanar, multiversal kinds of things, where do you go? What's your source of inspiration for kind of creating that space?
Well, like Alex says, it depends on what the idea is. Basically, it starts from an idea, whether it's I want a particular character to do this, or I want a particular adventure that has this kind of setting. And then it's coming up with stuff that makes that sound fun and plausible, basically. Like, to use an example, Cerberus Rex, a multidimensional villain from one of our books, started from just the notion of, hey, I want a super smart T-Rex mad scientist, to fight the heroes. And then following up from that about, what kind of world would this guy be from? Should he be from a parallel Earth, as opposed to, there was secretly a actual race of super smart dinosaurs in the ancient past, and they're just in hibernation or something on Earth. And
climate change woke up Cerberus Rex.
Right. Forgot to set his snooze alarm a few million years too late.
I like it. Now, do we want to play around with the idea of creating a multiversal being today? Is that something that we might want to sort of dig into, or we want to kind of let that simmer? I mean, I'm curious. It has captured everybody's imagination so very quickly, and everyone's really into it. I just figure maybe we'll leave it to chat. Chat, if you've got some thoughts on a. I'm thinking maybe it's we create something that is maybe a source of contention or problematic in some regard, and then just sort of roll with what the chat wants us to do, rather than a character.
Points out the interesting notion about a version of well-informed for characters from parallel Earths, where they know stuff because there's a variation of it that happened on their Earth. Alex introduced that in his Nether War campaign.
I like it.
Yeah, we did it as an expertise skill, where they had expertise Nether War, and they could roll a d20 to see if they remembered something that was supposed to happen, or how it happened in their world.
Very, very interesting. Okay. Let's see. Claude says, speaking of multiversal threats in Earth Prime, I'd love to know more about the Murder League from Elite Raven 3's backstory.
Then you might want to catch our live play this month. Because I have been doing some reading up on the Murder League just recently, in fact.
Nice. Now that's scheduled for what day? That's a Saturday.
That is Saturday the 21st.
Saturday the 21st. Okay. We'll be casting from the Patreon for that, and then everyone can watch. So, okay, nice. That is great. I was very happy about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's see. Okay, this is great. Tabletop Test Drive says, how about we give it a name? Farthington the Last, a universal jumper who discovers they are the last of their dimension. Oh, they are the last of their dimensional selves. Oh.
Interesting.
Tense. Okay.
They killed everybody in their council of Farthingtons.
This fits a little bit, right? Sort of a quantum leapish type character.
Mm-hmm.
Unless his actions cause destruction or mayhem. Okay. All right.
That's we actually have a character like that. Zeitgeist in the Earth Prime setting is basically that guy. He's a literal time possessing time ghost who jumps through history, possessing people to do bad things.
A Nazi time ghost.
Yes, a Nazi time ghost, in fact.
He'll be showing up as a gorilla in our first time travel adventure, just so people
Excellent.
know. All right. Hard to punch a ghost.
That's why I put him in a gorilla.
I see.
Right.
Yeah, I see.
Exactly.
Nice. Okay, so we've got Farthington the Last, who's a universal jumper, who is, maybe, is it that, as David mentions, that, they cause destruction or mayhem?
Well,
it could be, Farthington could be suffering a punishment as a result of being the last Farthington. And that's why every time he gets ready to cause chaos or mayhem, he gets moved to another dimension.
Oh. As sir, I beg your pardon. You made Steve choke at the very idea that I'm a bad guy. But yeah, okay, so I like that. Could it be that maybe, oh gosh, this kind of reminds me a bit of sort of Superman-ish kind of stuff, but maybe the society that banished him into this whatever, traveling multiverse prison. But they somehow something has happened and their world is destroyed. And
I mean, if as Alex suggests that Farthington's status as the last of his example throughout the multiverse is some kind of punishment, then it suggests something pretty serious must have happened at some point, and that some fairly cosmic force has imposed this existence on him.
Right. Yeah.
The interesting thing becomes for a character like that to be an antagonist. If Farthington is shuffled off to another universe whenever he causes trouble, then he has to obviously be very circumspect. Whatever it is he's trying to do, he obviously sounds like a manipulator who has to work behind the scenes, because if he steps over the line too far, he's going to get bumped into the next universe and have to start all over again with whatever it is he's planning or working on.
I like it. All right, so what...
I think that's neat. I also think the notion that maybe he tried to destroy a bunch of universes and then realized that maybe I should become a better person as a result of my punishment.
Sure.
I do like that somebody kind of mentioned something very similar to that. Let me dig back into the way back. It was sort of like they must find the better version of or become the better version of themselves as part of the punishment. But sorry, whoever said that, but I am unable to find you because I'm lazy.
Yeah, I mean, he could also end up being a character, who is much more of a sort of cautionary tale, who's the type who shows up to issue the dire warning to the heroes that something is happening in the multiverse, or that there's trouble that is coming that they need to deal with in order to try and make up for his earlier mistakes.
What I would do? I know what I would do. I would have him be the benefactor who brings the team together, but as soon as the team is formed, he gets shunted into another dimension, and the heroes find out that he only gets moved when chaos or destruction is about to happen.
Right.
So then they have to ask themselves, are we the problem?
Are we it?
That is
or
awesome.
Were we pulled together to prevent the problem?
And so he just vanishes as a warning, kind of an alarm that goes off. That's really clever. I like that.
Probably right around the time where he's like, the thing you have to remember is...
Damn it.
Okay, so are there time cops? I'm not familiar with the time cops in Earth.
Well, yes and no.
Sort of.
Yeah. I mean, they're the timekeepers who are the mysterious, cosmic beings that employ people like Dr. Tomorrow to fix things that go wrong with history. But it's never quite clear exactly how the timekeepers decide the way history is supposed to be, as far as that goes.
There's a group called the Authority, too, I think.
Yeah. There's a bunch of mysterious factions going on in time travel who seem to think that they're in charge.
Right. Farthington the Last as a sort of Galactus figure, but he keeps witnessing the ends of reality, just barely dodging them.
Yeah.
I misspoke. They're called the Associates, not the Authority.
Yeah.
Oh, they're the Associates. Okay. That suggests that more than one.
Indeed.
Yeah, well, they're locked in a Cold War with the Future Kin, so together they seem to have a idea of what the timeline is supposed to be like.
I see.
And they're both trying to make whatever timeline they're in favor of come to pass.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. I do like that sort of forever imprisoned and removed at the time of chaos, because potentially they're like chaos of such a magnitude that, that it would be, potentially, reality warping or whatever. That's very interesting. Let's see here.
This single dimensional traveler does not feel like somebody to just drop into a campaign.
Yeah, true. Let's see. 5 of alternate Earths that team up. Okay, yeah, I can see that being a thing.
You can definitely do some fun alternate Earth team up stories, especially if you want to mix things up and let your players play different characters. It can be fun to, if you're lucky enough to have multiple superhero campaigns going on, you can have the different campaigns team up. But you could also just have the heroes team up with their friends and counterparts from an alternate Earth and let them do sort of a mix and match team where the players get to play different characters, things like that. That can be fun.
I definitely have go ahead.
You could do a special one-shot, sort of like the finale of What If on Disney Plus, where everybody picks a version of their character from somewhere else, and they have like a special 1 or 2 shot event to face a big bad guy they never got to fight.
Oh, I like that. Yeah. Who's Professor Zed?
So Professor Zed is one of our multidimensional bad guys. He started out as a background character from Vortex from the Sentinels, and was basically the mad scientist who explained how Vortex got his powers, which are also multidimensional in nature. Professor Zed mysteriously disappeared in the accident that gave Vortex his powers. But later on in Sourcebook, we decided that Professor Zed was this dimension-traveling mad scientist who had all kinds of weird multidimensional technologies at his disposal and could manipulate dimensions and things like that. He's pretty formidable bad guy.
I love that.
It's weird how nobody mentally stable ever gets shifted through the multiverse.
Well, it also suggests that spending a lot of time shifting through the multiverse is probably not really good for your mental stability.
Right. Yeah. Bad on your stomach and your brain. Yeah. Let's see. Yeah. So I love this, the opportunities here. One of the things, I've shared this with Alex and some other folks, but one of the things that I've always wanted to do is have a collection of folks that are playing, a Mutants and Masterminds long-term encounter. They're sort of, they're different tables, but have one on the East Coast, one in the middle of the nation, and one over here in on the West Coast, and then have there be sort of these crossover events and things that sort of culminate actually around events at conventions. So that these folks are all kind of joining together and having some fun, and and also maybe being the enemies to the other heroes, and sort of playing around with that. But interdimensional stuff could really spice that up in a big way. I love that. Let's see.
Gives you a lot of options.
Yeah, Jonesy. Yeah, exactly. This is kind of what I'm talking about, and it would be fun if we put our heads together and sort of plan just something fun and interdimensional and something where different conventions and different groups of people could be playing, as Tabletop Test Drive said, having people being able to pick the same person but from a different, dimension or something. There's something fun to be done there, I think, for sure. I like this. Heroes forced into non-powered counterparts. Yeah, sure. They kind of find in this dimension they don't have any powers, or they're totally different, or they're a fish.
I'm a fish. Oh
I'm a
no.
fish.
Right.
I can't fit this lycra on. It's too fishy. Let's see. Claude says, together these teams across time zones are the, the zoning department. Okay, well, we're going to workshop that one, I think.
Yeah, right. We'll work on that.
We'll work on it a little bit. Yeah. All right, well, fun. So we've got Farthington the Last, who is coming in, randomly. Is that the idea? Or Farthington gets to pick where Farthington farthings?
I think it's random.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then warns them or something's he's trying to do the good thing, and then he's like, oh, but wait, there's one more, and then pew, he disappears.
Yeah, it's random, but it's weird that it's always the PC's dimension.
Right.
Right.
I see. Well, Punk, this is a very interesting. I think that this is taking in a very interesting direction. Universe without any shrimp, and then a universe that it's all just shrimp.
It's all shrimp. Well, it's like the universe where everything is actually cake.
Mhm.
Oh, I would love to go there. Like, is it cheesecake or is it just
All kinds.
All kinds.
Oh, all kinds of
Yeah,
cakes?
but pretty much you cut into anything in this universe and it turns out it's actually cake.
Okay.
Except for the one weird multidimensional traveler who is pie.
Right.
Oh, well, I can tell the difference between a pie and a cake, I think. I don't know. This is starting to blow my mind. And then bring me a skillet to the universe with nothing but shrimp. I see.
I will say Forrest Gump would be a very different movie in both universes.
Right. Indeed.
Yeah. One might be a horror film and the other just a deeply sad, like, I feel like I should be doing something more with my life. Let's see. Oh, yeah. Right. I mean, a shrimp allergy would not work out there at all. And what happened to Marie Antoinette in the total shrimp?
Cake universe?
Oh, in the cake universe, they ate her.
Yeah.
She said, let them eat cake, and she was cake, so they ate her.
Oh, I see. I thought they'd be like, I hate cake.
It was an unfortunate ending, but
It's kind of like the existential hell of a gingerbread dimension, right? Where
Right.
everybody is cake and the houses are cake and the cars are cake. But
cake.
are the cakes made of flesh or are the flesh is made of cake?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
it's pretty existential.
It really is, right? Yeah, and then that really does become more of a horror film. Stop eating us. We're not supposed to be delicious.
But you are.
It's my flesh.
If we weren't supposed to eat you, cake god wouldn't have made you delicious.
True. Very true.
So true.
Eat the rich takes on a new meaning. Exactly. All right. Well, so good. We're fomenting some rebellion, just in general, just generally speaking, which is great.
Right.
We're kind of giving me a stomach ache, which is also fun. I think it's really just all like a whole world made of shrimp, thinking about that, and then a whole world made of cake. Both of those things together just kind of gross me out a little bit. But
Well, these are the possibilities of the multiverse. you
that's
know?
right. That's
Fondue
right.
world.
Okay, yeah, that's
Right.
good too. I like that.
And of course, Fondant World.
Oh, I feel like we're in the fondant timeline. Oh, wow. Okay, interesting. Skeeters. By skeeters, I'm thinking you mean mosquitoes. Maybe.
Sure.
Let me know. Stealing DNA from other people from different alternate Earths. Yeah. Oh, did was there a Twilight Zone with it was all shrimp?
There have been a lot
I
of
don't know.
Twilight Zones.
I don't think there was, but it's nice to imagine. It's really not actually when I think about it. It's like
It's really not.
no, they're just like these. Shrimp are just the bugs of the sea. Ugh,
Yep.
they're grody. But I still eat them. I just can't think about them. And Stan says, "No,
Stan.
they're Stan's just being a jerk." Stan, everybody believes you now. That's canon. Shoot.
Right?
Maybe it was a Night Springs episode instead of a Twilight Zone.
Would you say a Night Springs?
That might be a reference. Only a couple of people in the audience know, but
I do not know it myself. I'm far too young to know about anything that you're discussing. All right. Well, so we've got some of the context for the visiting, multi-dimensional individual. Okay, I see. So we are riffing off of the Futurama episode with all the alternate dimensions, mostly just mentioned, including the universe of nothing but women. All right. Oh, gotcha. Oh, and then the all shrimp was also mentioned. So, this is in the zeitgeist already.
Hmm.
Nice.
Yep,
Okay. A little bit of
it's out there.
it's out there. So yes, thank you. Aura says, back to interdimensional characters. What do you guys think about NPCs that accompany the party to assist instead of only warning them or tossing them into another dimension?
Sure. I mean, the thing with sort of helpful NPCs is you just have to be careful that they're not hogging the spotlight from the player characters. So it doesn't become a question. You don't want the player characters to be turning into the NPCs' sidekicks
Hmm.
as far as that
Uh,
goes.
Yeah. I'm a big fan, if you have enough friends, of having somebody come in as a special guest to play the helpful NPC.
oh, I love
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
So you're not having conversations with yourself.
Yeah, that helps
Right.
too.
Right. That's right. Yeah. Aura says, yeah, the GMPC thing can be a little difficult, but I do like the idea of bringing in a surprise guest or somebody who's like, it is I. Let's
Yeah.
see.
But if you can't do that, having the NPC have just that one very special expertise and not being great at everything else helps eliminate some of that GMPC-ness.
Yeah.
Like if they know the stuff, but if they get beat up by villains every time they turn around, it quickly becomes, all right, this is somebody who can help us with this thing, but we're still the protagonists in the story.
Yeah, and it does sort of take the edge off of the GM having to do all of that and then this and all the other plans. Especially you, Alex, you always have sort of these formidable plans, kind of laid out. So I can see how it would be, you want to tend to the destruction.
I've got my interests as a GM.
Your bag of tricks, as it were.
Mhm.
Yeah. All right, I dig that. So are there ever any that you can think of, sort of like you'll do anything for love, but you won't do that, specific to like a multiversal mayhem?
Well, now I'm thinking of a universe where everyone is Meatloaf,
Me too.
Right.
but the food and the singer.
At the same time.
Singing
Mhm.
food. I like that. All right, Gene, you say no Mary Sue NPCs. Is that like a
It's a sort of a self-insert thing of a character who's ultra competent at everything,
I
which
gotcha.
as an NPC is especially annoying because then,
Mhm.
like I said, the player characters are sort of secondary in their own story.
I
They're like, why are
see.
we even here if
Right.
they can solve all our problems?
Hermione's got it all figured out. Yeah.
You know?
Okay. I gotcha. So back to that sort of rules that folks should consider specific to multiverse. I mean, ultimately, never say never, but also
Mhm.
don't do some things. What are some thoughts or advice you would give people when it comes to the multiversal stuff?
I'd say be very, very, like with time travel, we have a whole discussion in the Time Traveler's Codex, basically, that's called Who Controls the Time Machine?
Mhm.
Like that with dimensional travel, be very careful about who controls the dimension travel, and what the rules for dimension travel are. Um, you can run a campaign where characters have effectively unlimited dimension travel, but you really have to be able to think on your feet. If the players decide that their solution to everything is, well, we'll find the universe where that is and go get it.
Or we'll just move to a good universe. We don't need to do this
Right.
anymore.
You know,
Right.
like this
That's
universe is terrible. Let's go to a good universe where, there are no supervillains.
We'll just kill ourselves in that universe and take over their lives. We'll be the supervillains.
I love
Right.
it.
Well, I can picture a universe of, perfect peace and contentment. And I can picture the player characters attacking that universe because they will never see it coming.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, so I'm thinking about venue, and for some reason, I'm just having this feeling. Like, let's say you're working out all these details. A lot of stuff happened. Like, there are a lot of places in our modern time where people congregate, and that's shifted and changed over time. But boy, we sure get like just a nice group of 100,000, 200,000, even more people at places that say like a convention center.
Hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so let's say, like, imagine that you were on Roll 20 and you were like, where can I do this multi-dimensional, multiversal kind of thing with our buddy, what's his face? What's his name? Another word, Chuck? No.
I mean, Farthington the Last.
Farthington the Last, that guy.
Another word, Chuck.
I just kind of pulled
That's
that out
Una's
of
henchman.
right. But imagine, if that were a problem that you had to solve, we have got something for you, and it's called Convention Center, Danger Zone, and it's live today on Roll20. It is
nice.
Free, not free, but it's freely accessible, but then you have to pay for it to utilize it. But it is just now released, just now available, so folks can go, and there's a lot of good stuff. I've dropped the link in the chat, but it's a pretty decent resource because it can play multiple roles. Not the least of which is I'm thinking, for some reason I can't stop thinking of the movie with Snape, and he's the alien, and then the guy Tim.
Galaxy Quest.
Galaxy Quest. Thank you. Yeah. How they kind of the play on their careers afterwards, after the success of their space show, and how they just drudging through that sort of having and being somebody who's been adjacent to and in coordinating convention events before. That is they really did a good job kind of showcasing the slog of sign my headshot,
convention life, the circuit.
Yeah, and then just like the whole alien who landed, and right in the midst of all that, like they're like, yeah, that's so great costume, and it's fun stuff.
As you were talking about it, Troy, all I could picture was this sort of multi-dimensional convention center that exists outside of space-time and hosts conventions that are all of just variants of one person.
So that would be amazing.
It's like, welcome to Alex Thomas Con.
Thank you.
The gathering of all the variants of Alex across the multiverse.
I love all of the work that would have to go into thinking about bringing that to life. I mean, that is so great.
Like, attend the panel with all of the various Alexes, discussing, is streaming really healthy for us?
That makes it sound like a therapy session for all of us. Wow, that was a really good panel you put on, Alex Prime.
Right? Yeah, that's
Thank you, Alex472.
Also, I'm going to murder you so I could be Alex Prime now.
Right.
Didn't we go through this last year?
Yes, of course, Bowman Con is one of the most popular events held at this
absolutely. Look at that. I got confused.
It's technically known as QuiverCon.
Of course,
because it contains all of the Bowmen, but
and also all the very disappointed Jello enthusiasts that attend. They're like, "Wait, what?
This is not what I was expecting."
I have not read Shatner Quake.
Although they end up, when they finally meet the Bowman who is made out of Jello. It kind of compensates.
That's
from the Jello universe.
Yeah. I love it. I also love the notion that there's just like a whole concierge culture around that. Like, we've got an At AlexCon.
The interdimensional convention organizers. Let me tell you, their work is amazing.
Whatever you need, they got it.
There's one horror writer with a bad publicist who sent him to QuiverCon.
Yep.
Oh, this is great voice here. Or great voice. This is great making sound talk. This. I am having I don't know what's going on. I think I'm just thinking I'm so stunned by that notion of having a convention of all of the individuals that exist in all them. I mean, that is so funny. You could really build something incredible out of that. But I like this. If there's some kind of story cost to multi-dimensional travel, so that it's not an instant out to everything. And I'm thinking if you're running, maybe Farthington is it's Farthington, isn't it? Yes, right.
Yes.
So I'll call him Fart. So maybe Fart the Last is sort of joining this convention of individuals. It still just cracks me up, the very idea, because there's just a million of it. Just one of the most packed. Like, who would have the most, the highest number of individual use You know, like was it Steve? Is it Alex? Is it me? Like, it would be then just a fun axis to kind of play around with. And then you've got, what would be the story cost? I'm thinking of, going to this convention of individual representations or variant con or whatever.
Right. Well, I mean, it depends. The notion that there has to be some kind of cost to dimension travel is the notion of limiting
It's
access.
dark.
It's bleak. That's very dark.
Maybe not mulching children, but I take your point.
But it is the earlier point that you don't want the ability to hop through dimensions to become the solution to everything. We'll just go to this dimension where that solution exists, sort of thing. So yeah, there has to be some limits placed on it as far as that goes, and it might be anything from it's difficult to find a needle in an infinite haystack.
Right.
You could find that dimension, but it's going to take you like 1,000 years of searching in order to do it. Or any number of other things, just like the power limitations of dimension travel being tiring, or having some other side effects that make
maybe
it so
you
don't
lose
want to do it a lot.
Maybe you lose a percentage of your body mass, so every time you travel, you get a little bit smaller.
Could be
a little bit smaller. Just a little bit smaller.
It could be something you can't control, and it only happens when you're stressed out. Or it could be you're using a machine to do it that has very expensive and rare fuel.
I like that too. It also could be that there is, the comment from Aura made me think that there could be a bureaucratic sort of organization meant to sort of organize how people travel through all of the dimensions, and maybe it takes a long time to get a ticket.
Could be.
Some really overzealous dimensional border guards.
Right. I was going to say the Dimensional Variance Authority might decide that your unauthorized dimensional jumping is, causing a problem, and, needs to put a stop to it.
I like this. On your profile, it said you were 6'2".
Oh, that was like 5 dimension hops ago.
Oh, yeah. I'm a solid 5 and 5'2" at this point. Let's see. Okay, yeah. Talking about, so rarity of sort of the power and all of that. Yeah, I like that.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. A dimensional airport security, just some kind of, yeah. But I like that. And I also, I mean, would you two tend to go with solutions and things that are not, say, so dismissible, so easily sort of hand wavy, like, oh no, it's just too bureaucratic, or do you get into it?
For me, it kind of depends on what role dimension traveling takes in the story. Like, if that's the point of the campaign you're running, you don't want it to be too hard to hop from dimension to dimension. If, like, you're doing an episode of the week in each dimension, that's one thing. But if you're using this one-time dimension hop as a special solution to a problem, then that's where you want to input that sort of cost, in my opinion.
Right. Yeah.
Kind of like how Legends of Tomorrow, they could time travel whenever they wanted to because they had a time travel ship, except for when they didn't.
Yeah, except when the ship wasn't working, or they didn't have access to it, or whatever.
All right, Sean, it's kind of a little bit, I mean, the exploding kittens, I mean, come on, people. They're mulching children, they're blowing up kittens. But yeah, so that's right. Yeah, I gotcha. The deal with the devil twist.
Yep. There's always the monkey's paw, sort of approach to things, but
I like it. Yeah, that is a real, the question is kind of what I thought about, sort of, if there were impacts on the dimensions around you that, or because you're kind of carrying around with you a bunch of dimensional, dust or whatever, you're causing trouble. I like that. I still really do love the idea of players not knowing and then going through a portal and realizing they've lost a full, X amount of height.
Well, it could be if you hop a lot, you bring elements of the other variants of you back to your world, whether that's physical, mental, or social. Like maybe your relationship with people in your old world changes a little bit as a weird ripple of your traveling.
Like someone may know you that you don't necessarily know because the other dimensional you knew them.
Yeah, or maybe your boyfriend's not your boyfriend anymore when you come back.
That's
Right.
rough, but yeah,
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. I mean, ultimately, and again, it really depends on the style of campaign you want to do. But, you definitely can start from the premise that the dimensions are all separate for a reason.
Right.
And therefore, messing with that has got to have some potentially bad consequences at some point. I mean, it might not be as bad as, hey, if you go into this other dimension, both of your universes will be destroyed. But, it might, that might be the ultimate consequence of too much messing around with dimension travel. And
Unless you
that
mulch
gets to
this
the point.
child, right?
You know,
You could poke holes in the fabric between the two dimensions and stuff starts flowing in and out. So there's
Mhm.
minor differences that happen.
Yep.
I like that. Jonesy, this does not surprise me of you, my friend. But kind of building in sort of boundaries and sort of that kind of thing is thoughtful, also, right? I mean, you know, it's
Yes.
just it's just because you get
That's a
corrected
sign of a good
ultimately.
player when they deliberately, put some sensible limits on their own powers.
Right, a lot less work for the GM, huh?
Yeah,
In the
I didn't
run
even have
up
to
and
tell Jonesy to do that. He was like, "I'm doing this because it seems unfair that I can do this."
that's Jonesy. That
I
is
said, okay.
that's Jonesy. Okay, now talk to me about chronal memory. That is okay. It could be like you remember people from other dimensions. You
Yep.
visited and it gets all muddled up in your mind. Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
like
it
that.
could get complicated when you have a personal timeline that includes all kinds of variants that never happened so far as the rest of the universe is concerned.
Gotcha.
You know.
Stan says the food in my vegetable crisper changes every time I open the fridge. You know what's interesting
Hmm.
about that? We've been looking for the dimensional portal over here,
Yes.
and so now we know.
Everyone like deep down knows that fridges are multidimensional portals, and that if you
Mhm.
just open the door again, something will be different than the
That's
last
right.
time you looked.
That's right. You'll find that thing that you just can't quite put your finger on, that multi-dimensional food that's escaped your memory, but you know you're
Yep.
hungry for it. Oh,
I love that idea as a complication of every time you open a door, the space beyond is a little bit different than you were expecting it to be.
Hmm.
It doesn't take you
oh,
out of the dimension, but it brings one aspect of the other dimension into the space that you're about to enter.
Yep.
that would be a very interesting sort of way to change up a locale or something. That every room sort of gets a random sort of table rolled thing.
Hmm.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah,
I
that'd be
like
fun
that.
to play around with.
Alternate Earth detector power.
Oh no, I opened my fridge and it's the lava dimension.
Crap. I
Or
hate
open a
that.
door in your closet and it's like an old Looney Tunes train coming to run you over. You gotta open the
Right?
door real
Coming
quick.
at you.
Coming at you in the train tunnel. I like it.
Oh, wrong door.
Wrong door, exactly. Uh,
Laura, I absolutely agree that limits are much more interesting when it comes to both just character creation and power creation in general. And honestly, give players more opportunities to come up with interesting and clever solutions rather than, well, you can do anything.
right.
So,
And
you know,
complications kind of is that understanding that, that it adds texture to sort of
mhm,
add these sort of, quirks or things that, like we all have, but can, really play off of the powers of your hero. That's really fun. I like
yeah,
that a lot.
Another fun thing you can do with multidimensional creatures or characters is have your PCs team up with heroes that they've always wanted to play alongside.
mhm,
Like for a special adventure, if you want to have them help the Justice League with something, or have the Justice League come into their universe and help them with something. That way, you don't have to make a whole campaign set in that universe, but you can have those
right.
characters show up and see how they interact.
Yeah,
I,
that's an excellent point. Is in your home games, you can
Mm-hmm.
get away with doing stuff that we legally are not allowed to do.
Mm-hmm.
right. Oh, I see. Yes, right, right.
Although at the
Yeah,
end of Netherwar, I did have Doctor Fate and Doctor Strange show up to say, "What the heck?"
right.
Right. Well, and in that was sort of your home game, right? It was sort
Mm-hmm.
of like, that's is a beloved but not official,
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Eminem stream, but
Yeah.
that is interesting. I like that. Oh, I see. Yeah. I do like, yeah, all of the team up stuff is great. We've talked about Fart the Last, our friend who is a multi-dimensional traveler on a mission to, well, actually, he doesn't really know. It's just sort of teleported at random to places that
Right.
aren't in chaos and then out of there when chaos does ensue, or just before. And then we talked a little bit about sort of the, you know, some of the boundaries or thoughts or creative things that you can do. We've talked about a venue, you know, over at,
Mhm.
you know, if you're playing on Roll20, you want to, or actually you can pick it up at our store too as a PDF.
Yep.
But are we missing any other elements of this or things that we might want to, you know, leave people with I cannot believe it. We are almost done. That is
Right.
always a surprise to me.
Thinking of iconic characters again, it would be kind of interesting if you found out your character was the version of that character in your universe. Like if your PC was, oh, I'm actually Spider-Man in this universe. That's weird.
Right.
When you find out when you get summoned to Into the Spider-Verse for a special one shot,
Right.
you're like, I'm not Peter Parker or Spider-Man, but I guess I'm close enough.
To count, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Well, especially if, you know, you're, as is often the case, superheroes often are so often played around with archetypes of one sort or another, you know, and hey, if your, you know, character is, you know, the Batman of your universe, you know, then yeah, why not team up with a bunch of multiversal Batman characters, you know, or characters who are based on Batman, you know, and then they can argue who's based on who, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. Well, so listen, in the remaining 5 minutes, couple things that we want to talk about. So again, the date, Steve, for your next actual play is
Saturday, May 21st.
right. That'll be 2 p.m. Pacific. Am I correct?
I believe you are, yes.
Nice. And those have been a blast. Very, very well watched. People have a good time, and we'll be providing links in that. So, Gene, make sure you take a peek at the pending announcements. Also, hey, Patreon folks, it is indeed all the votes have been tallied, and we'll be doing Crooks. It's Crooks.
Woo!
Yep.
Yay,
So.
metaphor.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking forward to all of that. And then the other pieces, yeah, well, you know, so Steve, what have you got cooking? Anything else beyond that you'd like to share or update people with?
So Aura mentions the alternate Freedom Cities we talked about last week, and those are in the works as far as that goes. I just worked up a version of New Century City, which is basically a alternate version of Freedom City in that it is based off of one of my old early drafts of the Freedom City book before it became Freedom City, and I modified a bunch of things from it. So there are a bunch of old and earlier characters and other sort of concepts that never made it into the published book. So this is sort of a look at what might have been, and of course, with the multiverse, still is somewhere out there.
It's really cool. I got to read it today, and you guys are gonna love it.
That's awesome, Alex. You got yours cooking too, don't you?
I do. Mine is Earth 4-4, where everything is a musical.
You ever wanted a musical episode for your campaign?
Freedom City is ruled over by a being known as the Phantom and his 7 brides, who are sort of the 7 brides for 7 brothers. And there's lots of bad news. Hades has a great singing voice.
It turns out.
There's a barber who likes to eat people. It's a whole bunch of fun. There's a bunch of angry plants.
And one insufferable villain, Jazz Hands. I like
You get
it.
a circumstance bonus for Jazz Hands.
Right.
So, Alex, you've got something cooking tonight, though, right?
I do. We'll be back for Guardians of Haven tonight, which is our Starhaven live stream over on twitch.tv/Untold Stories Project. They get to decide between breaking into a preserver facility to reactivate some of the ancient technology or stealing something from Farside City delegates. So who knows what the players will do? I don't know.
Who knows? I mean, honestly, and you've trained them quite well. They've become quite canny. Like they're just not like So to see that, where do they go?
Twitch.tv/Untold Stories Project.
Nice, excellent. Jonesy's dropped a link in the chat. Now, as we're closing out on the final minutes here, Babidi, Babidi, Babidi. Asks, are healers a big thing in this tabletop game? I know there are a few healer heroes in comics and TV, but it's usually a needed role. And then someone else says, Ikora says, healing can be a bit overly strong from what I've heard in M&M. What are your thoughts, gentlemen?
Well, I mean, healing is less important in M&M because of the sort of comic book tropes that, generally speaking, most of the time characters get knocked around in fights, but it's never ultimately a big deal. So generally the healing is designed so that characters bounce back pretty much completely in between encounters for the most part, unless there's a real significant story complication that the GM wants to put into play. And we talk about lasting injuries essentially as a complication. So healing tends to be focused on getting characters over the damage that they're dealing with in an encounter. And, basically, kind of, like a boxer, like, you got this, putting them back into the fight with a boost. So just like the comics, healer characters tend to be uncommon. It's not a regular superpower that a lot of characters have, but some do. Lady Liberty, for example, in Freedom City is a healer. And sometimes a team will have one, but it's not always the case.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And it could be good for overcoming some afflictions and conditions like that in the middle of combat, if you want your players to be effective the whole time.
I love that. Well, Babby D, son of Bibi D.
Oh, Dragon Ball Z. I got it.
Right. Yes, I'm not super familiar, but thank you for that question. Everyone else, thank you so much for watching, hanging out with us, having some fun and asking questions, and hanging out with us for this second episode of the Multiverse May. Steve, Alex, what a great time! This is a lot of fun.
Pleasure as always.
Still a little upset about that. All things are shrimp universe, but I think I'm gonna go eat some cheesecake and get over it. Thank you all for hanging out. What a lovely time. We will be back again. Come check us out on Thursday. We have Thursdage with Owen Casey Stevens, und myself, and we hang around. It's sort of like in the same spot, and we just talk about things a little differently.
It's sort of an alternate version of this.
It really is. It really is. And then we're working out all the details, but it appears as though perhaps that last Friday we had an illness, and so we weren't able to do the Beyond the Ring finale stream, and so we're looking at maybe that's going to be this coming Friday. We're looking to kind of put a bow on that because I know Ian's starting to feel better. Everyone's starting to get, and we just got to get our logistics all sorted. But in the interim, make sure that you're subscribing, make sure you're liking, make sure you're giving us all the hearts or the thumbs or whatever it is. Hand it over, and then leave a comment, say hello, say, boy, I sure love that Mutants and Masterminds Monday, regardless of how you actually feel. And it helps us sort of get that algorithm working in our favor. We are so close on the YouTube side of things of getting some new opportunities and things. So if you're over there, if you're not over there, go subscribe. If you are over there, subscribe, and we'll be able to kind of up our game over on the YouTube side of things. But with that, I say, everyone, thank you so much. Thank you again. We will see you all very soon. Bye-bye.
Bye, folks.